Our foray into Spira's history and FF10's official Ultimania timeline is nearing a close. Today, we'll be continuing from 9 years ago up until the beginning of the game. This is where things really escalate, so if you haven't watched the previous videos, please check out the playlist popping up in a card on screen right now, or check the links to previous videos in the series in the description below. With that being said, let's get this show on the road. Nine years ago. Jiskel, leader of the Guado, and Kelk, leader of the Ronzo, become Maesters of Yevon, as part of Micah's subrace's appeasement policy. With the Temple of Yevon at the height of its influence, its next move is to fully integrate itself into the cultures of Spira's various races. To cement this, Jiskel Guado, both a Yevonite priest and leader of the Guado, is elevated to the rank of Maester. Alongside him, Kelk Ronzo, honorable chieftain of the Ronzo, is also made a Maester. While Kelk remains somewhat enigmatic, his polished speech and refined mannerisms hint at an education under human Yevonites, positioning him as the ideal bridge between the temple and the fiercely independent Ronzo tribe. Tidus's mother dies from a broken heart over Jecht's death. The loss of Jecht and the deep mourning of Tidus's mother mark a major turning point in Tidus's life. Having always seen his father as a brash, overbearing alcoholic, Tidus's resentment hardens into full-blown hatred. With his mother consumed by grief and barely acknowledging him, Tidus is left to stew in his anger, further cementing his view of Jecht as an absent, selfish figure who abandoned them both. The sixth sin appears publicly, with Braska's final Aeon, Jecht, as its core. This part's a little bit confusing and sort of muddles the previous point in the timeline, where Auron rides Jecht's sin into Dream Zanarkand. If Auron was able to hitch a ride to Dream Zanarkand on Jecht's sin, that suggests sin doesn't actually vanish entirely. Instead, it may retreat to the distant ocean near Dream Zanarkand, focusing on its role as a guardian to the dream, while recovering from the damage of the battle. This would explain the discrepancy between Sin's destruction from Braska's final Aeon, with Auron riding Sin to Dream Zanarkand, and the re-emergence of Sin. Either that, or it's just a plot hole that got overlooked. Nevertheless, 9 years ago, prior to the events of the game, Sin returns to Spira. This marks a particularly short calm period. 3 years ago, when Keenock becomes a Maester of Yevon. When Keenock's rise to the rank of Maester of Yevon is a pivotal moment in the organization's recent history. As a former warrior monk, Keenock's deep ties to the Yevon faith and his battle-hardened background allow him to command both the warrior monks and the crusaders with an iron fist. His position grants him immense power, placing him in direct opposition to the ideals of his once close friend Auron, who in his time away from Spira grows to reject Yevon. Keenock's promotion solidifies his influence within the temple, but it also sets the stage for future tensions. Seymour assumes the post of High Priest of Makalania Temple at Micah's nomination. He secretly travels to the Zanarkand ruins to acquire anima. He then transports its statue to Baj and seals it up. Seymour's ascent within the Temple of Yevon marks a significant shift in his character. As he rises to the rank of High Priest, his ambitions begin to take a darker turn. Returning to the Zanarkand ruins, he finally claims the Aeon from his mother's faith, an act he had once rejected, symbolizing his complete embrace of his power and Yevon's teachings. But Seymour's actions don't stop there. He also transports the faith statue of Anima to the Temple of Baj, sealing it away, possibly to prevent others from using it or to harness its power for his own ends. This decision solidifies his growing control over both the spiritual and political aspects of Spira, marking him as a figure to be reckoned with within the temple. Seymour revisits Baj many times. It is around this time that he makes a firm decision to carry out his plans. The attack on Baj by Sin, which devastates the surrounding area while leaving the temple intact, plays a crucial role in the fate of the Anima faith. With the rest of the region destroyed, the temple becomes an isolated sanctuary, effectively removing Baj from the pilgrimage route and rendering it inaccessible. This makes it an ideal hiding place for the anima faith, keeping it out of the hands of potential summoners while preserving its power. We also know that Baj's destruction must have been within the last 10 years, because Braska's statue is in the temple's antechamber. As for Yojimbo, the mysterious Aeon, often tied to a sense of mercenary loyalty, it's been theorized that he is indeed the original faith of the Baj Temple. This idea fits neatly into the narrative of Baj's destruction and the temple's disconnection from the pilgrimage, positioning Yojimbo as the Aeon of the stolen faith. This connection raises intriguing questions about the nature of the faith in the world of Spira, especially considering the potential for their wills to be manipulated or bound to places and forces beyond their control. That would also kind of connect all of the dots in a neat way, but anyway, moving on. Seymour also resolves at this time that he wants to be the bringer of death and destruction to Spira. Seymour's desire to become Sin reveals the depth of his nihilistic worldview. His conviction to bring about death and destruction stems from a profound disillusionment with Spira. In his eyes, the endless cycle of sin, the suffering, and the eventual calm are just temporary fixes, masking the rot at the core of society. By seeking to become Sin, Seymour aims not only to acquire immense power, but also to assume control over the cycle itself. He believes that by embodying Sin, he can cleanse the world, erasing the people who have failed to live up to the ideals he once revered. This radical path of destruction shows Seymour's growing disconnect from the ideals of Yevon, and his willingness to betray those around him for the sake of his own twisted vision of justice. It's a path that leads him away from any possible redemption, with only the need for absolute control and chaos guiding his actions. 2 years ago, Yuna begins training as an apprentice summoner. Yuna's admiration for her father Braska is a driving force in her life, and as such behind her decision to apprentice as a summoner. Growing up hearing the stories of his heroism and sacrifice, she feels a deep connection to his legacy. She sees becoming a high summoner as not just a way to honor her father, but as a way to prove her worth and fulfill a destiny that has been laid before her. Though she carries the weight of her father's accomplishments and the expectations placed upon her, Yuna is not just motivated by the desire for recognition. She is driven by a deep sense of responsibility. She believes in the power of summoners to bring peace to Spira, and she sees her journey as a continuation of her father's work. However, as the story unfolds, Yuna's path as a summoner will reveal both the complexities of the pilgrimage and the sacrifices that come with it, as well as her evolving understanding of what it means to truly honor her father's legacy. Lulu serves as a guardian to summoner Ginam, who dies on her pilgrimage. Lulu returns to Besaid. Lulu's objections to Yuna's decision to become a summoner are rooted in both personal trauma and a deep sense of protectiveness. Having been a guardian for Lady Ginam on a failed pilgrimage, Lulu experienced firsthand the heartbreak of losing someone she cared for. Ginam's death, during an attempt to acquire Yojimbo, and the failure of her pilgrimage left Lulu with a profound sense of guilt and a fear that history might repeat itself with Yuna. For Lulu, the idea of Yuna following in her father's footsteps and embarking on a pilgrimage was too painful a prospect, as it meant exposing Yuna to the same dangers and heartbreaking outcomes she had witnessed before. The memory of watching Lady Ginam die during her journey made Lulu more determined to shield Yuna from such a fate. 1 year ago, Lulu becomes a guardian for Summoner Zook. Waka also promises to become Zook's guardian after the Blitzball tournament. Having failed her last pilgrimage, Lulu joins Summoner Zook as guardian for a second pilgrimage, with her friend Waka also promising to become guardian once the Blitzball tournament finishes. Sound familiar? The Crusaders carry out a daring defense operation on the Jose shore. Chapu is killed, taking part in the battle as a Crusader. The Crusaders press ahead with the Jose shore defense operation. Chapu's death is a pivotal moment for both Waka and Lulu, as it leaves behind a deep sense of loss and unresolved emotions. For Waka, the grief is compounded by feelings of guilt and frustration. He had tried to convince Chapu to carry a sword, an emblem of tradition and honor within the Yevonite worldview, but Chapu had chosen instead to use Machina weaponry. This decision, which Waka viewed as a rejection of Yevon's teachings, becomes a source of pain for him after his brother's death. The idea that Chapu might have been better protected if he had accepted the sword weighs heavily on Waka's conscience. For Lulu, Chapu's death is a tragic and complex emotional blow. She's not only grieving the loss of her lover, but it also hammers home the necessity of protecting those she loves from sin, by serving as a guardian for a summoner who might defeat sin. Lulu and Waka leave on a pilgrimage as Zook's guardians. After Chapu's death, Lulu and Waka, alongside Zook, embark on their pilgrimage as guardians, each carrying their own emotional baggage. Reflecting on his past actions, Waka admits that during his first pilgrimage, his mind was often consumed by thoughts of Blitzball, a distraction that ultimately prevented him from fully committing to his responsibilities as a guardian. This realization comes to light during the game's events, where Waka reflects on his past and acknowledges that he failed to prioritize the pilgrimage's true purpose. His promise to protect Yuna, made more deeply after Chapu's death, leads him to make a life-changing decision. He quits Blitzball after the tournament and resolves to focus entirely on being a guardian. 6 months ago, Zook quits his pilgrimage in the Calm Lands. Lulu and Waka return to Besaid. After their respective failed pilgrimages, both Lulu and Waka return to Besaid, their home island. Despite the emotional scars of their past failures, they are determined not to let Yuna face the same fate. Alongside Kamari Ronzo, who swore to be Yuna's guardian some year or so prior, they pledge themselves to her cause as well. Lulu, despite her painful experiences, steps into the role of guardian for a third time, offering her wisdom and strength to guide Yuna on her journey. Waka, finally understanding the gravity of his role, pledges to take being a guardian more seriously. Kamari, though more reserved, silently watches over Yuna, his loyalty to her rooted deeply into the very core of his being. Right before the game begins, Jiskel dies. His son Seymour assumes leadership of the Guado, as well as the position of Maester of Yevon. Jiskel Guado's death marks a turning point for the Guado people. While initially regarded as a competent and respected leader, his sudden death takes everyone by surprise. It is later revealed that Seymour, Jiskel's own son, was the one responsible for his father's murder, a move that would secure his position as the new leader of the Guado. With his rise to power, Seymour is also appointed as the Maester of the Makalania Temple, further solidifying his influence within the Temple of Yevon. This murder is the first major step in Seymour's larger, more sinister plan. By eliminating his father, Seymour removes any obstacle standing between him and total control over the Guado. His position as a Maester provides him with unparalleled access to the inner workings of the temple and its influence over Spira. But more than just a power grab, Seymour's actions signal the beginning of his twisted ambition to become sin. It's clear now that Seymour is no longer the faithful servant of Yevon that many believe him to be. He is a man consumed by his own ideology, one that seeks to bring about destruction on a massive scale. And so, we are completely caught up with the official timeline for Final Fantasy X prior to the start of the game. I hope you enjoyed this video series, folks. I'm going to be on a road trip for the next little while, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to stick with my upload schedule while I'm on the road, but I will try. Either way, please make sure you're following the channel as we try to get a video out every week. With all that being said and out of the way, please have fun and stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye!